A driver of many biotech partnerships today is the ongoing effort to discover and develop effective medicines for Alzheimer's disease. There have been a slew of therapeutic development failures in recent years, but biotech researchers and developers persist, all in an effort to hopefully combat forecasts that by the middle of this century, more than 150 million people worldwide will be affected by Alzheimer's at a cost of more than $2 trillion per year. To talk more about Bio's latest report on this big, fast-growing, and very scary problem, we're joined by David Thomas, Bio's Vice President of Industry Research, and Kenneth Mock, the CEO of Cognition Therapeutics, a company that's working in this field, and also a longtime Bio board member. Gentlemen, welcome to Good Day Bio. It's great to have both of you here.
Great to be here.
David, so let's start with you. Jim Greenwood earlier in the show called out the urgent needs, specifically in Alzheimer's disease. So what are the key findings of this year's report, and what, if anything, surprised you?
Okay, yeah, before I get to the details in Alzheimer's, I should start off by saying where the drive is behind putting this report out, and that has to do with something we saw a couple of years ago, which is a disproportionate spending on venture investments versus total healthcare costs in the US. And so we've embarked on an investigation of 6 indications so far for highly prevalent chronic diseases. And we wanted to find out if this is a more broad issue. And it turns out it is. In fact, industry-wide, we're seeing decreases in clinical trials and investments across the board. That brings us to Alzheimer's, and what we see there is the funding is 16 times below what you'll find in cancer, and the clinical initiations per year are flat over the last decade. They aren't increasing like you would see in some areas like rare disease or cancer. And the pipeline, given the success rates, is somewhat small, if you will.
Ken, at a high level, can you tell us about your company's specific approach to trying to address Alzheimer's disease and how this actually started, your company's effort with one?
Certainly. So we are working to hopefully restore and protect the electrical connections in the brain with an experimental medicine that now is in the second phase of clinical testing. We hope that it will help overcome what we think of as a societal tsunami as it relates to what Alzheimer's disease is and will become in the world. Our company is a perfect example of this. It starts with one theme, in that our founding scientist had a passion for the brain and for Alzheimer's disease, and 12 years ago moved from California to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when she got a small amount of money from the Pittsburgh venture community, actually Life Sciences Greenhouse, and for 12 years has been working on this idea of helping to restore these electrical connections.
But Ken, when we're seeing, as I mentioned, a graveyard in terms of clinical trials in Alzheimer's disease, sadly, lately, and even some companies abandoning it, saying we've thrown up our hands essentially, why does your company, and others, I should say, keep going?
Because we have to. Because we have to figure out a way to cure Alzheimer's. This is, for anybody who's been touched personally by Alzheimer's, and I have, this is personal. It's the most difficult disease state I've ever worked in, and any of us have ever worked in. This is an area where the cards are stacked against us in terms of the complexity of the brain and the difficulty of looking at how you can measure changes with a new medicine. And we just have to keep working on this to figure out a way to solve this incredible problem.
And David, quickly, call or calls to action from the report?
Well, I think that we have already 74 drugs in the pipeline, but we need more. And what we're seeing is 77% of these are driven by the small companies. So they're stepping up with different approaches, different targets that haven't been addressed before. So we need to see more of that. And the government is stepping in and has increased funding for dementia research, which is very helpful.
So let's all hope that with a greater financial commitment and the continued commitment of biotechnology, that we will fulfill the promise in Alzheimer's disease.
Certainly do.
Thank you both for being here.